Welcome to another episode of InRange. I'm coming to you today about a gun I legitimately really enjoy. This gun is fun. It is the 1927 A1 semi-automatic variant of the venerable American Thompson submachine gun. And while I really enjoy this gun, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I heavily recommend you do not bother ever acquiring one of these. I'm going to explain to you why for many reasons in just a moment. Of course, the venerable Thompson submachine gun, when you think about it, with the drum, the 1920s, the Roaring 20s, which is actually a division at our brutality matches, the gangsters, the cops, all that stuff, and that really extension of what we call the Old West into the New West. Modern guns, similar conflicts. I don't think the Old West changed, it just evolved. However, of course, the 1934 National Firearms Act regulated and controlled the distribution of machine guns, amongst other items, and the 1986 Hughes Amendment restricted that even further, and to acquire an original, fully automatic Thompson submachine gun today is a very cost-prohibitive endeavor, one that most of us, regardless of the $200 tax stamp, could never afford. But it cuts such a visage that it's hard to not want one, and I can see why a semi-automatic one was brought to the market. There's many semi-automatic variants of fully automatic guns on the American market, and there's no reason not to do that, generally speaking. Before 1934, you could walk into a hardware store or even mail order one of these right to your door. In fact, there's an incredible advertisement from that period of time of a cowboy in woolly chaps with a Thompson submachine gun on his porch. Can't get more American than that. But because of those prohibitions and the Hughes Amendment and the fact that you can't really afford these things and the way they're controlled, in 1975 or right around there, Auto-Ordinance came out with a semi-automatic version of this gun. And they produced them as Auto-Ordinance. Actually, they still produce them under the name of Auto-Ordinance, but they were owned by Numeric and some other companies before that. In 1999, they were acquired by Car Arms. You're probably familiar with them for other things other than this, but Carr bought Auto-Ordinance and continued to produce this and other variants of the Thompson submachine gun in a semi-automatic guise starting in 1999. But here's where we get into some of the challenges about this gun. One, right now, as of the recording of this video, these things are $2,400 to $2,500. Yeah, you got me right. $2,500. And this one was not acquired new. I would not have paid $2,500 for this, and I would not recommend that you do either. I acquired this from a friend of mine who bought one in 1999 or right around there. Never used it and had it sitting around under his bed because, quite frankly, he could never get it to work. And if you Google these guns on the internet, you're going to find that the vast majority of people talking about owning one of these is that they can't get them to work. These are, in my opinion, kit guns. You pay your $2,400 and you may get one that works. I mean, who knows? But you're probably going to get a gun that, with this drum, comes in at 16 pounds loaded, that may not even function whatsoever. That's a hard sell. But let's also talk about the company that makes these. Car Arms is owned under what we colloquially call now the Moonies, which is essentially a cult of which there's a splinter group called the Rod of Iron Ministries. Some pictures here. These are the people you may have heard of that hold religious ceremonies where they bless their weapons and AR-15s and etc. Along with the Unification Church, all of which is subgroups of the people that own Car Arms, who now own Auto-Ordinance, who now make this iconic American semi-automatic variant of the Thompson submachine gun. So you have an American iconic firearm brought back to the civilian market via cultists. Can't make this stuff up, can you? Now, when they brought this gun to the market in a semi-automatic version, they had to do some things to change it for ATF approval. One of which is it wouldn't fire from an open bolt. The original Thompson, the bolt would lock to the rear. When you pulled the trigger, the bolt would slam forward and fire the gun and then just cycle on its spring pressure with direct blowback. Never mind the Blish principle nonsense. Under direct blowback, and it would do that ostensibly until the magazine was depleted. If you let go of the trigger, a sear would pop up, catch the bolt. Well, they've modified this to a closed bolt variant in which the bolt closes, but it has essentially a striker fire system with a separate spring that when you press the trigger, it drops a sear, which then drops the striker, which actually is kind of the worst of both worlds. You're semi-automatic now, but it really feels like you're firing an open bolt gun because the lock time of the firing pin going forward to hit the primer isn't all that much faster than if you were just firing this as an open bolt variant, with the minor difference of the weight reciprocating is, of course, lower. It's just the firing pin moving forward as an open bolt style action than the entire bolt itself. Other things they did to get ATF approval is they modified the magazine catch and changed where the hole is on the back of the magazine so that it would lock into the action. So you can find relatively cheap Thompson World War II and even before or even after military magazines, but they won't fit in this semi-automatic version. You can start drilling on the back and try and get it to fit. Good luck with that. Sometimes you'll get it right, sometimes you won't. I tried that with not such great success. You can theoretically modify and change the magazine catch on the gun to then take military magazines. Also kind of a pain in the ass. And I found it to be easier, quite honestly, to just buy the Auto-Ordinance car arms box magazines, which fit in and work. I will say this about this. All of the box magazines that I've acquired from them, this is a 30 and these are 220s, they work fine. I've had no problems with these. But they only work fine once I did what I needed to do to make this gun work at all, which was a number of things. When you first get one of these, charging the gun by running the charging handle will be so difficult due to the spring pressure, you might think the gun's broken. So before you even start trying to use this, you need to get a modified spring kit from a company named Howell Arms, and putting your spring kit in, which is quite easy, changes that dramatically. You can run this charging handle now without any problems, and in fact, it absolutely increased the reliability of the gun for me. Another thing that happens is the firing pins break, apparently with regularity. This one did, and so I had to repair the firing pin. I did that of my own accord with my own Dremel and welds and other things. The magazine catch on this gun, when I acquired it, almost immediately, if previously broke, and when you pushed it up to release the magazine, it actually didn't engage the plunger that would go into the back of the magazine because the rivets or welds or whatever they were doing to hold that magazine catch together broke. So I have literally welded on this magazine catch to fix the magazine catch in this gun. The rear sight on the semi-automatic version is held in with 4 screws. The original guns were done, I believe, with rivets. Not a problem using screws, that makes sense. I mean, easier to do, and theoretically you could replace this with alternative third-party sights or fix them easier if you needed to. However, when you start shooting the gun, if yours fires at all, these screws, at least on this one, walked out and just fell somewhere into the desert, which meant I had to find new screws. And now the screws that are in here are Loctited in with red Loctite. Okay, on top of that, I said the box magazines work. The drum magazines from Car Arms, Auto-Ordinance, do not work. At least the 2 that I had in my possession did not. One was a 10 round, which is just, of course, for aesthetics, and one was a 50 round. Neither of them would even fit into the gun unless you beat them in with a rubber mallet. And then once you got them into the gun, they didn't work. Constant malfunctions, nonstop. This worked, drum didn't. This is also solvable, however. A Taiwanese company, I don't know who they are, makes alternative 50 and even 100 round drums that do work, and this is one of them. This one does work, just got it recently. And they white label it under Numeric Arms or Gun Parts Corp. So if you go to Gun Parts Corp and look for drums for the 1927 A1 Thompson, and look for the ones that are labeled GPC, Gun Parts Corp, or from or Taiwanese manufacturer, those work. If they say they're Thompson or Auto-Ordinance, at least in my experience, those do not work. The ones from Taiwan fit right in easily. They go in, they lock in, they come out, they run reliably. However, if you want to run a drum, the only way to load a drum is on an open bolt. And the box magazines will lock the bolt open upon going empty. However, the drums do not. So when you fire the last round, the bolt goes forward, closes, and you cannot remove the drum, even if you push the magazine catch. So you have to lock the bolt open. Either you have to hold it with your third hand, if you have one, pull the drum out, or they make a part called the third hand that goes into the magazine well, and you could push on it with your alternative hand, lock the bolt back because that engages the bolt hold open, and then you can pull the drum out. Or you can use some other tool to do that. The third hand actually works well. However, it does not retain in the mag well once you push the magazine catch. It just falls out. So if you're going to use those, think about the fact that when you push the magazine release to remove the drum after you've locked the bolt hole open, you're going to have to catch that third hand or just lose it and buy a bag of them so that you'll have them when you lose it. And all of that together for $2,400, $2,500 from Cultists to shoot a 16 plus pound 45 ACP semi-automatic gun is not recommended. However, once I fixed the sight, welded the magazine catch together, fixed the firing pin, found a drum that worked, found magazines that worked, it's pretty darn cool. On the positive side, besides looking awesome, and I don't think the long barrel really affects the appearance that much to me. Your mileage may vary. It's surprisingly accurate. The long sight radius provides some of that. There's a very shallow rear notch, which is good for like up close work. If you flip the ladder up, you've got a great peep sight that goes out to 5 zillion yards. You'll never move it beyond the bottom. But the aperture sight picture is superb, and the gun is actually surprisingly accurate. Of course, there's no recoil whatsoever. How could there be with the weight of this thing, firing 45 pistol cartridges? And it's pretty fast and fun to shoot. Another oddity, though, is due to the fact the way the sear engages with the striker / firing pin. This one, at least, has a variable trigger weight press every time you pull the trigger. Sometimes it's light, not light. Sometimes it's medium. Sometimes it's heavy. Sometimes you got to squish it harder than other times to get it to shoot. I don't know. Something about the geometry of how the sear engages the doodle for the wobbly middle bits for it to fire to get it to be semi-automatic. But frankly, if you've ever fired an open bolt submachine gun before, just treat it like that. You don't use this trigger with precision. You smash it like a staple gun. And if you smash this with like a staple gun every time you want it to fire, it will almost always fire once you've fixed all the problems that it came with in the first place. Disassembly is not terrible. There's a plunger on the back. You push that up. I'm not going to bother with that for YouTube because they're going to think I'm manufacturing something. There's not much to see. You push the plunger up, the upper and lower come apart. You use a screwdriver to pull out your rear plate with the springs on it. The springs come out and the whole bolt comes out as one piece. Clean it, put it back together. That's not a big deal at all. So, if you're okay with buying a gun manufactured by Cultists because it's an American, this is American heritage right here. You want a traditionally American gun manufactured by a Korean cult that costs $2,500 and won't work when you get it, then I recommend this. If you have $2,500 to spend in any other way, probably you should do that instead. That said, you're going to see more of this gun on the channel. I really like it now that it's working. The fact that I bought it from a friend who got it in the 1990s and I got it used at a, honestly, very good price. Thank you for that, my friend. And turned it into an experiment to get it to work at all, means that this to me is kind of a really fun prize gun in my possession now. And every time I post images of it, people are like, oh, I want one. No, you don't. You really don't. You don't. Now you know what you're getting into. Spring kits, repairing screws, repairing firing pins, drums from Taiwan, not from Auto-Ordinance, dealing with the magazine issues, and then having a 17-pound semi-automatic 45. Cool. They do make an aluminum receiver version that brings the weight down a little bit. Never dealt with one of those. I don't plan on buying any current guns manufactured by Firearms or Auto-Ordinance ever. I only have this because I was able to get it from a friend who's had it forever, and it was a project for me. So there's your warning. You're going to see more of it. It's cool. It's iconic. I do really love shooting it. It's fun to bring to the range. Handing it to a friend, they're like, wow. Or they can't even pick it up. They're like, ugh. Your mileage may vary. But I can't, unless you've got a situation like that to buy one like this that you then want to work on, do not. Think about it. In fact, run the other way. Just run. Pew. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. This is very clearly not a sponsored video. I have no relationship to the Moonies or the Rod of Iron Ministries or Firearms or Auto-Ordinance at all, or Numeric, Gun Parts Corp, or any of these people. Everything here you see has been purchased. Some of it used from friends, some of it directly so I could do the video. And all of that is because of viewers like you. This channel is completely demonetized proactively. We make no money off of YouTube whatsoever. It's you, the viewers, that have kept this channel alive for essentially a decade now with the NPR model. We bring an alternative voice to the gun space, and as you can tell, our reviews are very honest, and we hold nothing back. And that's because you make that possible. Patreon.com/InRangeTV. If you already are one, thank you so much. If you can consider it, we start as low as $3 a month. That's $36 a year. A handful of y'all doing that make a difference for this channel to be able to do this kind of content for you and others. If you can't, I know money is not infinite. Just subscribe, click the bell. You probably won't get a notification. We are shadow banned heavily. But you can also share this video with your friends, post it on Reddit, post it on social forums, post it and send it to your friends. You can be an organic algorithm for us. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching this. You will see more of this gun because it is applicable to the Roaring 20s division at my matches. It's also rad now. All right. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.